When people think of New York, they picture the Statue of Liberty, Times Square, Broadway, maybe even Niagara Falls. But here's the thing. New York is way bigger, weirder, and wilder than most people realize. The state is full of bizarre and surprising geography facts that sound fake, but aren't. From waterfalls taller than Niagara to forests bigger than national parks, here are 50 New York geography facts that will change the way you see the Empire State. Fact 50. Bigger than all of New England. New York is huge. In fact, it's larger than all of New England combined. That's Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut all together. And they still fit inside New York's borders. It covers over 54,000 square miles, which makes it the 27th largest state. So next time someone thinks New York is just the city, remind them the state itself is the size of a small country. Fact 49. A water world. New York has more than 7,600 freshwater lakes, ponds, and reservoirs, plus nearly 70,000 miles of rivers and streams. The Hudson, the Mohawk, the Genesee. These rivers shaped the state's history, carrying goods and people long before highways. Water isn't just a feature here. It's the lifeblood of New York, from powering industry to creating breathtaking scenery. Fact 48. Niagara Falls isn't the tallest. Everyone knows Niagara Falls, but here's a surprise. It isn't the tallest waterfall in New York. That honor belongs to Adirondack Falls in the Finger Lakes. At 215 feet, it drops 33 feet taller than Niagara's American Falls. The wild part, most tourists have never even heard of it. It's tucked away in a quiet state park where you can enjoy jaw-dropping views without the massive crowds. Fact 47. Adirondack Park is a giant. New York is home to the Adirondack Park, and it's not just big, it's enormous. At 6 million acres, it's larger than Yellowstone, Yosemite, Glacier, and the Grand Canyon National Parks combined. Unlike most national parks, people actually live inside it. Small towns, villages, and whole communities are scattered across its mountains and lakes, making it a mix of wilderness and human life you won't find anywhere else. Fact 46. Mount Marcy, the roof of New York. The tallest point in New York is Mount Marcy at 5,344 feet. While that's tiny compared to the Rockies, it's the highest peak in the state and the tallest point in the entire Northeast. On a clear day, you can see more than 100 miles from the summit, including into Canada and Vermont. Hikers call it the Roof of New York. Fact 45. Rocks older than time. Some of the Adirondack rocks are over 1 billion years old. They were formed by ancient volcanoes and tectonic shifts that happened before most complex life even existed. When you hike here, you're literally stepping across some of the oldest exposed rock on the planet, older than the Appalachian Mountains and rivaling parts of the Grand Canyon in age. Fact 44. Cohoes Falls, the Forgotten Giant. Niagara may get the spotlight, but Cohoes Falls on the Mohawk River was just as important in history. At 90 feet high and 1,000 feet wide, it was a major obstacle for the early settlers and explorers. Native Americans considered it sacred. Today, it's one of the largest waterfalls east of the Mississippi, and yet most people outside New York have never heard of it. Fact 43. The Erie Canal that built New York. When the Erie Canal opened in 1825, it changed everything. It linked the Atlantic Ocean to the Great Lakes, slashed shipping costs by 95%, and helped turn New York into the financial capital of America. Some historians say the Erie Canal did more to shape America's economy than any single railroad or highway. Fact 42. The Thousand Islands, and more. Between New York and Canada sits the Thousand Islands region. But here's the kicker. There aren't 1,000. There are 1,864 islands. Some are so tiny they only fit one tree, while others are big enough for castles, like the famous Bolt Castle. And yeah, Thousand Island dressing was invented here. Fact 41. Long Island is massive. Long Island isn't just a suburb. At 118 miles long, it's the largest island in the continental US. It's even bigger than Rhode Island. More than 8 million people live there, which means if Long Island were its own state, it would rank 13th in population, ahead of Washington and Massachusetts. Fact 40. The oldest covered bridge. Hyde Hall Covered Bridge in Cooperstown was built in 1825. That makes it the oldest covered bridge still standing in the entire United States. It's a piece of living history that survived when most wooden bridges of its time didn't. Fact 39. Shaped by ice. New York's landscapes, the Finger Lakes, the Hudson Valley, and even the rocks in Central Park were carved by glaciers during the last ice age. Those massive ice sheets sculpted valleys, gouged out lakes, and left behind boulders known as glacial erratics, dropped hundreds of miles from where they started. Fact 38. Lake Placid's Olympic fame. Lake Placid is one of only 2 places in the entire world to host the Winter Olympics twice, once in 1932 and again in 1980. The 1980 Games gave us the miracle on ice when the underdog US hockey team defeated the Soviet Union. Geography made it possible. Cold winters, high peaks, and frozen lakes made Lake Placid the perfect host. Fact 37. The Hudson River, a tidal wonder. The Hudson River isn't just a river. For much of its length, it's actually a tidal estuary. Salt water from the Atlantic pushes upriver for more than 150 miles, all the way to Albany. That means fish like striped bass swim far inland, making the Hudson one of the most unique rivers in the world. Fact 36. Montauk Point Lighthouse. The Montauk Point Lighthouse, at the eastern tip of Long Island, was the first lighthouse built in New York. George Washington himself signed the papers to commission it in 1796. For more than 225 years, it stood guard over the Atlantic. Fact 35. A land of waterfalls. New York has over 2,000 waterfalls scattered across the state. Ithaca alone has more than 150. That's why the local slogan is Ithaca is gorgeous. From tiny cascades in the Adirondacks to roaring giants, waterfalls are one of New York's hidden specialties. Fact 34. Seneca Lake's depth. Seneca Lake, the largest of the Finger Lakes, plunges to 618 feet deep. That's deeper than the Empire State Building is tall. Because of its depth, the lake almost never freezes, even in the coldest winters. Fact 33. Coldest place in New York. The coldest temperature ever recorded in New York was minus 52 degrees Fahrenheit in Old Forge, up in the Adirondacks, in 1979. That's colder than parts of Alaska on the same day. Fact 32. Hottest place in New York. On the flip side, the hottest temperature ever recorded was 108 degrees in Troy in 1926. New York doesn't just get cold, it gets weather extremes. Fact 31. The Statue of Liberty's odd address. Most people think the Statue of Liberty is in New York Harbor, and it is, but technically the statue sits in New Jersey waters. Still, legally it's part of New York. A fun little quirk of geography and politics. Fact 30. Lake George's crystal waters. Lake George in the Adirondacks is so clean and clear that Thomas Jefferson once called it the most beautiful water he had ever seen. Today it's known as the Queen of American Lakes. Fact 29. The Palisades Cliffs. Along the Hudson River rise the Palisades, towering cliffs of volcanic basalt up to 540 feet high. They look like a fortress wall guarding the river, and they stretch for nearly 20 miles. Fact 28. Catskills inspiration. The Catskill Mountains weren't just beautiful. They inspired the Hudson River School, America's first major art movement. Painters in the 1800s turned its wild landscapes into legendary works that shaped how the world saw American wilderness. Fact 27. West Point's perfect bend. The U.S. Military Academy at West Point sits at a sharp bend in the Hudson River. During the Revolutionary War, this bend was so strategically important that massive chains were stretched across the river to block British ships. Fact 26. Erie Canal Song origins. You know the song, "I've Got a Mule, Her Name is Sal." It came from the Erie Canal. The famous line, "Low bridge, everybody down," was a warning for boat passengers to duck under the canal's bridges. Geography meets pop culture. Fact 25. Lake Champlain's frozen rink. In winter, Lake Champlain sometimes freezes solid, turning into one of the world's largest natural skating rinks. Entire festivals have been held right on the ice. Fact 24. The drowned towns. To supply water to New York City, dozens of towns in the Catskills were deliberately flooded to create reservoirs. Entire communities, churches, and cemeteries now sit underwater. Fact 23. America's smallest towns. Red House, New York has fewer than 40 residents, making it one of the smallest incorporated towns in the entire United States. Blink, and you might miss it. Fact 22. Largest metro area in the US. The New York City metro area has nearly 20 million people. That's larger than the population of entire countries like the Netherlands or Switzerland. Fact 21. Museum of Giants. The American Museum of Natural History in New York City is the largest natural history museum in the world. It holds over 30 million specimens, from dinosaur bones to meteorites. Fact 20. Rock Climbers Paradise. The Shawangunk Mountains, known as the Gunks, are one of the world's premier climbing destinations. Their cliffs are made of a unique quartz rock that draws climbers from around the globe. Fact 19. Tornadoes in New York. New York averages about 10 tornadoes a year. They're not as big as the ones in the Midwest, but they're a reminder that extreme weather doesn't stop at state borders. Fact 18. Letchworth's Grand Canyon. Letchworth State Park is called the Grand Canyon of the East. The Genesee River cuts through cliffs as high as 600 feet, creating one of the most stunning landscapes in the state. Fact 17. The Beaver Comeback. Beavers were hunted to extinction in New York by the 1800s, but in 1904, they were reintroduced. Today, they thrive again in the Adirondacks, reshaping rivers and wetlands like they once did centuries ago. Fact 16. Ghost subway stations. Beneath New York City lie abandoned subway stations. The most famous, City Hall Station, is a beautiful hidden time capsule with arched ceilings and skylights, closed since 1945, but still intact. Fact 15. Statue of Liberty's thin skin. The Statue of Liberty's copper skin is just 3/32 of an inch thick. That's about the thickness of 2 pennies, and yet it stood tall since 1886, weathering more than a century of storms. Fact 14. The Catskill Falls Big Drop. Catskill Falls in the Catskills is one of the tallest waterfalls in the eastern United States, plunging 260 feet deep in 2 dramatic drops. It's been inspiring writers, painters, and hikers for centuries. Fact 13. Oldest state park in America. Niagara Falls State Park, established in 1885, holds the title of the oldest state park in the entire United States. Fact 12. The Adirondacks stand alone. Here's something strange. The Adirondacks aren't part of the Appalachians. They're their own unique mountain range, still slowly rising due to geologic uplift. Fact 11. A state of forests. Over 63% of New York is covered in forests. That's more than 18 million acres of woods. It's a reminder that outside the city, New York is one of the greenest states in the Northeast. Fact 10. Rivers underground. Howe Caverns, one of New York's natural wonders, features an underground river where visitors can take a boat ride in complete darkness. It's like stepping into another world. Fact 9. Glacial boulders in Central Park. Those massive boulders scattered around Central Park, they're called glacial erratics. Rocks carried by ice sheets from hundreds of miles away, then dropped when the glaciers melted. Fact 8. Record snowfall. New York holds the U.S. record for the most snow in 24 hours. In 1997, the town of Montague got 77 inches of snow in a single day. That's more than 6 feet, enough to bury a house door. Fact 7. The Mohawk River's claim. The Mohawk River, at 149 miles long, is the longest river entirely contained within New York State. Fact 6. Birthplace of baseball? Cooperstown is often called the birthplace of baseball. While the story is more myth than fact, it's home to the Baseball Hall of Fame, forever tying New York to America's pastime. Fact 5. A moving statue. The Statue of Liberty actually sways. In strong winds, she can move about 3 inches, and her torch sways as much as 5 inches. Fact 4. Wine country in the East. The Finger Lakes aren't just beautiful, they're also one of America's top wine regions. The area is especially famous for Riesling, thanks to its cool climate and deep lakes. Fact 3. Times Square's name change. Times Square wasn't always Times Square. It was originally Longacre Square until the New York Times moved its headquarters there in 1904, giving the crossroads its now famous name. Fact 2. The Empire State nickname. Why is New York called the Empire State? The story goes that George Washington himself said New York's wealth and resources would one day make it the seat of the empire. Fact 1. A state of extremes. From skyscrapers to mountains, from billion-year-old rocks to ghost towns underwater, New York's geography is as diverse as its people, and that's what makes it the true Empire State. And there you have it, 50 New York geography facts that seem fake, but aren't. From waterfalls taller than Niagara to forests older than time, New York is a state full of surprises. Which fact blew your mind the most? Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more geography adventures.